So I can honestly tell you, as an African, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. I was in a meeting today and we were talking about elections in the DRC. And I remember my brother from DRC saying, well, we got to get some money. We need help we need some money to help us organize elections. And even after he finished talking, I thought to myself, DRC is one of the richest countries in Africa. And I'm sitting here, and the DRC cannot come up with enough money to hold elections. Such is our reality in Africa. There's something terribly wrong with that picture. Move on. Look at DRC. DRC, it's going to take a long time for DRC to be independent because of special interests. All those planes that are taking the mine, the minerals out of the jungle every day, how do you stop them? They're the ones who are going to start the coup. They're the ones who are going to start the civil war. Anything to keep the Africans chaotic while they continue to siphon what they want to siphon. That is also our reality. So even if we were to stop all the corruption from the leaders today, even if we were to stop all the terrorist activities in the different parts of Africa today, those outside forces will never allow it. They'll keep stirring the pot. Because you see, a stable Africa is an Africa that cannot be exploited. I don't know if some of you heard the story about 23, I'm sure all of you know, 23 years ago, there was a group of young men who were having fun in South Africa, and around that time, Equatorial Guinea had just discovered oil, and they cooked up a plan to have a coup in Equatorial Guinea, so while the Guineans were busy fighting a civil war, they're siphoning the oil. So it was sold as a quick investment with huge returns. The only mistake they made was they also wanted to acquire some weapons from Zimbabwe. So half their flight was full of weapons from South Africa. These were non-Africans, by the way. Prime Minister Thatcher's son was actually leading the group. I don't know if some of you can Google the story. There's actually a book on it. She had to fly into Zimbabwe and pay handsomely to get her son out, but he was leading the whole operation. Some guys, the young people, were from Britain, Australia, New Zealand. Some of them were mercenaries. So they filled up their big plane and they stopped in Zimbabwe to pick up more ammunition. But I'm told Mugabe smelled a rat and wondered why young men who are going to hunt in Equatorial Guinea needed such powerful rifles. So he did more investigation. It turns out that they had picked up a diaspora from Guinea, Equatorial Guinea, who lived in the islands, and he was supposed to be put in as the president after a coup would have occurred. But of course, the whole plan was foiled, and those young people were arrested in Zimbabwe. And I do believe the last ones left the prison in Zimbabwe maybe a few years back, but that was 23 years ago. So there would have been a civil war going on after a coup in Equatorial Guinea, and the world will just say, well, here they go, the Africans again. Well, that's all they do. They're always fighting. But people with no gun, not a single gun manufacturing plant in Africa. Where are the endless guns coming from? Who is supplying these young people with endless guns? So there's a bigger picture that I think the world needs to understand. Yes, we have issues with our leaders. Yes, we have issues of corruption, but equally, if we're going to address the issues of corruption in Africa, let's have a bird's eye view. There is humongous corruption coming from outside, and yes, there is also corruption from within. So both have got to be addressed if we are to really begin to get Africa in a position that Africa can take care of itself.
Yes, greetings and welcome, family, brothers and sisters. That is an interesting story. And this telling us how Africans, of course, are being destabilized. The reason behind it's because of resources. Just imagine that groups of Europeans from different parts of the world mobilizing, come to South Africa, pack arms, ready to conduct coup in Guinea. Just imagine. So when we see these coups in Africa, it doesn't mean the coup is, maybe it's because of, sometimes not because of Africans. Coup, there's someone who is behind these coups. It's the things that we Africans, we don't speak the truth. And if it's true, African Union and these continental bodies or regional bodies are really want changes in this continent, can they talk about these issues? Can they address these challenges? We have seen mercenaries in Democratic Republic of Congo. Have you heard any kind of statement from the African Union condemning countries for sending mercenaries or condemning those people who are coming from elsewhere to come to Congo and conduct illegal mining activities? Have you heard African Union saying something like that? ECOWAS, wherever these regional bodies, why they are still keeping silent? What they fear? And yet they are saying they want democracy. They want rule of law. What is the rule of law they are talking about? You know, sometimes when you think about this continent, you can become crazy. And all in all, it's because of colonial minds. Even those who are in power, they are still having colonial mindset. You know, I have been listening Mama Arikana Chombole Kwao for a long time. In this video, also, she's spoken about the problem of our minds. And here, what she said. Listen.
The status of black people today is what it is. But the real bigger issue as I face the challenge of rebuilding our Africa is the realization that quite often many of us are still deeply colonized. Our actions are colonized. Our thinking, our decision-making processes, when we sit across that boardroom table as a CEO with degrees from Harvard and all the big schools around the world, we're still making decisions for Africa with a colonized mind. We're still leading our Africa with a colonized mind. And yet, we don't even realize that our actions are colonized. So as an ambassador, I wonder, where do I begin? Garbage in, garbage out. Look at the exploitation that's going on in Africa today. Some things are just as simple to say, why can't the Africans just fix this? Why can't we pick up a brick from point A to point B successfully in a straight line? But no, we gotta go to Honolulu and Timbuktu before we can take this brick right here. The legacy of colonialism. Over the years, we have seen masses, millions of Africans leave Africa for various reasons. Wars, in search of greener pastures. The brain drain that has occurred in Africa to date makes the issue of developing and building the Africa we want mission impossible.
Yes, that's how painful it is when you think about this continent. Many questions come to our minds. You may ask yourself, when will Africa unite? When will Africa decolonize our minds? As you heard from Mama Africa, Our Excellency Ambassador Dr. Arikana Chombole Kwao, majority of us, we are still having colonial mentalities. Our minds are still colonized. We don't trust ourselves. We don't believe in each other. We don't appreciate what we are doing. You know, yesterday I was listening a speech of Captain Ibrahim Traore, and of course I shared in this platform. He spoke in one thing that is very, very important. He said, among of us, we have some Africans who are calling themselves the empire of slave. It means they cannot change their minds. The slavery mentalities are in their DNA. So you cannot change them. You cannot change them because their colonial mindset is within their DNA. And here is what Traore has said. Maybe let me share what Traore said, then we'll come back and continue with my conversation with you. Here is what Traore said.
There are also those so-called armchair slaves who can never change. As I said, for them, it's like a curse that follows them, no matter what you do. Genetically, they are slaves. Congenitally, they are alienated. They can only follow what the imperialists say. Show them the sun in broad daylight and they'll tell you it's night. So, it's a curse. And they will keep trying to discourage you, keep talking. But the most important thing is what you do. The reality is there and we are moving forward.
Yes, that is President Traore speaking about the issue of slavery or slave empire. Of course, we know even if you do a good thing, this slave empire cannot appreciate because they have been designed and taught to believe on others. Even if African leaders, African people is doing very well, they can't appreciate. And I saw when the young Zimbabwean, somebody Chikumbuso, innovated a machine that can convert radio waves into energy. African leaders are going to the meetings, into summits, speaking about energy, green energy, and asking America, Europe to fund transition energy. While we have people who are here already in the continent who have capacity to build machines that can convert radio waves or radio frequency into energy, why don't we invest into that man, Mr. Chikumbuso? You can see it's because of our mentalities. Even our leaders don't trust us. Our leaders don't trust their doctors. When they seek the land away, they don't trust their teachers. When they want to take their children to school, they take to Europe, they go to China, to America. So they have no shame on what they are leading. So that's the Africa that we have. Those are slave mentalities and those are slave empire. So you can see how we are designed. So when you listen to Traore, you can understand that there is something within this man. This man is a liberator. This man is a savior and a game changer of Africa. You know, before moving too far, let me ask you, do you know why we have these colonial mentalities? Why we are still referred as a slave empire? It's because we are designed to be so. And the reason behind the family, brothers and sisters, it is because of our resources. We have designed to feel like we need someone to lead us. We need other people to lead us. This is how we were designed. The aim is to make sure that they control our resources. I've been listening, Mama Africa, Dr. Arikana Chombolikwa. Let me share what she said. You can understand the truth behind. Here is what she said.
Rice period. We got plenty of land. We need to do our own farming. That's why agriculture is front and center. Most of the African economies, particularly sub-Saharan, are going to be agriculturally led. We have got to grow our own. Why are we importing rice from China? Why are we importing maize from Brazil? We can grow all that. We have the land. Africa can actually be the breadbasket of the world. Again, back to, it's mind-boggling, those of Africans to say, why can't we get this? There's nothing to agriculture except just do it. But somehow we don't. So that one, importing rice out of plastic out of China, we own that. And we need to do something about it. There is no excuse for that one. And that goes to governance.
And what action advice do you give to Friends of Africa?
I think joining hands with the African diaspora is going to be what it's going to take. Because when you look at the situation on the continent, the capacity is just not there to fill the need. So in order for us to really develop the continent, we're going to need to join hands. The repatriation of the African diaspora is going to be crucial. The African Union has concluded true sustainable change has got to involve significant participation of the African diaspora and Friends of Africa, because the expertise that we need is outside and not inside.
I think the young lady, though, wanted specific actions of some kind.
What we are doing from a legislative point of view, not a whole lot. You are living in America, this is America. If you're in Europe, but in Africa, we're saying, as the African diaspora, these villages will be growth centers that we can manage and even begin to address the issues of corruption, to say, we're going to run and operate these villages and slowly begin to absorb others, in not only in that country, but in the region, the way we think Africa should be run. There are more doctors, Ghanaian doctors in New York City than in all of Ghana. There are more doctors out of Nigeria in New York City than in Nigeria itself. So the brain drain that has been going on for years must be reversed. How do we go about doing it? It's not easy to just say, African diaspora, please, go back home. Go back home where? And live a life that's nowhere near what I'm used to. And yet our Africa, with all its wealth, the richest continent on earth, the continent that still has 80%, upwards of 80% of its natural resources still intact, the continent that the West world, not strategic planning process that goes on without Africa at the center, because everything and anything the West needs can be found in Africa. I was in a...
Yes, now you understand the reason that why people, especially Africans, not just people, Africans, who don't appreciate each other, who don't support each other, it's because of slavery mentalities. We don't trust ourselves, we don't believe in each other, we don't support one another, we criticize each other for everything that we are doing. Right now you see, for instance, these powerful nations, these African continental bodies and regional bodies, they are condemning Burkina Faso for not conducting elections. Why? Because they trust Western systems. Because in Europe, in America, there are these things that we call democracy. That is totally different with what we want as Africans. Recently, you heard the story of lifting sanctions from Guinea-Conakry after holding elections. Why? Because they trust what the Western told us, that for you to be okay, to be good, to look, you are learning things okay, let us have an election. But we forget that election was brought to Africa purposely to divide the people. And democracy is a tool that has been used. You know, these people, they came with different projects. Among of the projects was Berlin Conference. Berlin Conference was to divide Africa into pieces. Then after Berlin Conference, they control Africa, they divide, they take Africa wherever they want. Spanish, they have their share. France, their share. UK, United Kingdom, whatever, they have their own share. Belgium took their share. Portuguese took their share. Then after that, the Africans started awakening up. When Africans wake up, of course, led by our founding fathers, Africans started to demand freedom, whatever, something like those. They understood us. There's a time when these people will want total liberation. So let us give them, these people, flag independence. They give us flags, they give us anthem, then they keep economy. But economy is everything, because economy control everything. So for Africans not to demand economy, they came with something called democracy. And through democracy, they introduced something called multipartism. Multipartism was a project that divided people within a country. And they sponsored creation of political parties. We have seen a country such as the Democratic Republic of Congo. Let me tell you, has more than 100 political parties. Just imagine, Democratic Republic of Congo, 100 political parties. Every party wants to have a president. What will happen? Do you see there will be a comfort? People will sit down together? 100 political parties. And who is funding those political parties? Those are questions that we need to ask ourselves. So that project was to divide Africa. And of course they have succeeded. And that's why you see in every election, after every election in Africa, there was conflict, there was death. You saw what happened last year in Tanzania, in Uganda, in Kenya, 2027, of course, 2007, you saw what happened in Mozambique. I think last year, 2024, 25, you saw what happened in Mozambique. People have been killed. Why? Because of political parties. Now they have introduced a new system called green energy. This is another system that was put in place to make sure that Africans, despite you have fossil energy, you have oil, you have other resources, you cannot benefit from those resources. You cannot generate electricity through oil because it is fossil energy. So you need to move to green energy. So Africa, we don't have money, we don't have capacity. We have, of course, those are just stories. They are telling us we don't have capacity, but in reality we have capacities. And our leaders, because many of them, their mind are so colonized, they trust that we Africans, we don't have capacity. But let me tell you, you know somebody called Chikumbuso, a man who converted the radio waves into energy. We have those. Just imagine we have someone called Chikumbuso who can convert radio waves into energy. Why don't we invest in such kind of people? And why we are going to ask for Europeans, for these Westerners to help us? Why can't we fund ourselves? You have seen in Burkina Faso, they are being built, not from IMF, from China, no, from within. People can contribute, everyone can contribute. If you have a bag of smart, you can contribute. If you have energy to carry that bag, you have to contribute. Someone contributing, you have energy, you contribute. Someone has skills, you contribute. Someone have idea, you contribute. That's what Africa we need to do. You see? So family, let me share also this from Mama Africa, Dr. Arikana Chombo, the issue of China. The issue of China has been sparked across the continent. Western powers are saying Africans are being looted. But let us understand the reason why China chopping, what China see within Africa. Look here.
Check, we got that. The sun, solar, we got that. The best solar on earth. The only thing we have left to really complete the puzzle of what Africa needs is diaspora. The involvement of the Chinese in Africa is an interesting one. You see, when you're hungry and you need food now, you'll get what you can get. So the difference between the Chinese, and I say this to my colleagues in the right places, to say, you all turn around and complain about China coming to Africa, but the reality is when I'm hungry and I need food now, I go to China, they say, how much? I come to the West, they make me jump through so many hoops. By the end of the hoops, I may not even finish. I will die before I finish jumping the hoops. That's the difference. So yes, as much as we may not, we're beginning to pull back now. Because China came in when African countries are having difficulties making ends meet. I mean, ideally, I would like to say, you know what, it's calculated that over $500 billion is leaving Africa every year from the Francophone countries to France. I'd like to say, France, please, stop that. Because we're the poor continent, and we're giving billions of dollars to France. If Africa could be allowed to keep what's rightfully belongs to Africa, maybe, just maybe, we could begin to to turn the corner. So China is coming in to fill the gap that somehow the West has vacated. And we realize the issues with China, but now we are beginning to pull back and renegotiating those agreements. The difference between China and the United States in their engagement with Africa and the rest of Europe is that China and the United States never colonized Africa. So when we come to the table as Africans and the Americans on one side and the Chinese on the other side, we are losing the game because we're coming into a fight with knives and the Americans have 357 Magnums. So until we Africans can now also come to the table properly armed, but at least we're having a conversation from an equal footing. France, we have got to first uproot France from the roots. And those roots are so deep-rooted. How do you take companies that are benefiting out of Africa and try to stabilize a country so the country can move on?
Yes.
Look at
now you understood why China took this opportunity. Some are saying China is looting Africa. Yes, maybe China is looting Africa, but I can't blame Chinese. I can't blame China. I have to blame ourselves. We Africans, we don't have strategy. You know, have seen African leaders being summoned in different capitals, in Beijing, in Washington, in London, in Seoul, Korea, in Ankara, Turkey, in Dubai. African leaders have been summoned almost in every capital city in this world. But when African leaders are being summoned themselves within our continent, have you heard African leaders having a summit to talk about unity, to talk about single currency, to talk about one Africa? Instead, Africans or African leaders are speaking those words when they are in Davos, when they are in Washington at UN. They speak about unity when they are far away. Africans right now are demanding permanent seat at the UN Security Council. Let me ask you, even if today the world or the UN is saying, okay, there is one permanent seat for you, Africa, who will control that seat? Let me ask you, African Union that has suspended Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso can have a permanent seat? African Union that kept silent when terrorists and people wanted to destabilize Burkina Faso? African Union that has kept silent after the claim of US that there's white genocide in South Africa? Till today, African Union didn't know statement. Who will take that seat? South Africa? No, South Africa that has been stopped to participate at the G20 summit by the United States of America. Egypt? Who will control that permanent seat? So you can see the difference and where we are. So if we are serious, we want permanent seat at the UN Security Council, we want equal share, first of all, we have to come together. We have to unite and say, you know, we are Africans. So we demand this, but we cannot demand as individuals. Let us come together. Let us having our own powerful organization. Not African Union. African Union is not a powerful organization, it's a weak organization. African Union has no military power, has no territory. African Union has nothing except those who are in power. You know, one day I listened, the former chairperson of African Union, Musa Faki. He spoke in one thing that one day he wanted to visit someone or somewhere in Africa, a member of African Union, but he was prohibited to enter in that country. Just imagine a chairperson of African Union being prohibited to enter a certain country. Is that a strong continental body? Can that represent us if they are being prohibited? That's the weakness of African Union. Yes, we have African Union, but they have nothing. They are so weak. Yes, you know, right now they have been sanctioned, Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. What happened next? So they're just sanctioning. Nigeria was bombed by US, what African Union said. Of course, African Union can congratulate America for bombing. But what if we have a working African Union that is so strong, united? That duty was not for America, was for African Union, that we have terrorists in Nigeria. Let us go and eliminate those terrorists. Maybe we have conflict in DRC. We don't need to go to America to sit down under Trump and sign peace agreement as if we Africans, our minds are not working. We have to say, let us sit down in Addis, in Kampala, in Ouagadougou, in Niamey, in Bamako, in Dakar, in Abuja, and let us resolve this issue. Why we are fighting each other? Why we can't listen to each other? What's our problem as Africa? And then we can solve our challenge. Look, right now, America brought together Rwanda and Congo, and right now America wants to bring together or to bring together Ethiopia, Sudan, and Egypt. So, and these things is not for free. America is signing deal. When Congo and Rwanda sign deal, it means America have access to natural resources in Democratic Republic of Congo. There's Lobito corridor there. It must work. So for Lobito corridor to work, it needs peace within the region. So in Ethiopia, they want to mediate. Not because they want to bring peace, because they want access to sign deal. That's how Trump is running his government. So you can see, but we Africans, it is burning, brothers and sisters. It is burning, it is burning. Let us not speak for too long. But all in all, family, fellow Africans, hopefully you can contribute something. You can share your thoughts, ideas, what we can do to make Africa great. When I think about this continent, sometimes I feel to cry. But let me be strong, because I know this journey is not the journey of fainted heart. It's a journey of strong and brave people who will take Africa from this position to the next level. So family, have a nice time. See you next time in another video. Thank you for watching.
Thank you, Africa.